A drop in the bucket.
Whose bucket, buddy?
No, let me tell you something. This is what a lot of people don't understand. The U.S. Mint is about to record probably its best May in the history of Gold and Silver Eagle program.
Well,
they're going to sell more than 200,000 ounces of gold and more than 3 million ounces of silver this month.
Yeah, that's because they haven't sold but 4 ounces in the last 6 months.
No, they've been breaking. This year they've been breaking records every single month, and we are supposed to get confirmation of fractional eagles, which have been an endangered species for well over a year.
Oh, I don't think I've ever even seen one. 800-691.
Oh, I have.
800-691-7898 to call Robbie. He's only got 150 of the Swiss Helvetas. Brilliant uncirculated minute between 18 what and what?
97 and 1930.
All right. 800-691-7898. Let me see. I've got time here. I don't have time to take a call, but let me do number 11 on the chart of 25. If you think this is an economic recovery, you're either stupid or delusional. According to one new report, the U.S. national debt will reach 100% of gross domestic product by the year 2015. So is that a sign of economic recovery or economic disaster? Number 12, monstrous amounts of oil continue to gush freely into the Gulf of Mexico, and analysts are already projecting that the seafood and tourism industries along the Gulf Coast will be devastated for decades by this unprecedented environmental disaster. In light of those facts, how in the world can anyone project the U.S. economy will soon be stronger than ever? And 13, the FDIC's list of problem banks recently hit a 17-year high. Do you think the increasing number of small bank failures is a good sign or a bad sign? All right, let me get a couple more of these out of the way. Otherwise, I'm going to feel rather unfulfilled if I don't get in the whole 25, these 2 hours here. Let me see. The FDIC, number 14, is backing 8,000 banks that have a total of $13 trillion in assets with a deposit insurance fund that is basically flat broke. So what do you think will happen if a significant number of small banks do start failing? Well, they're going to anyhow. Number 15, existing home sales in the United States jumped 7.6% in April. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is that this increase only happened because the deadline to take advantage of the temporary home buyer tax credit, that's a government bribe, by the way, was looming. That expires, I think, on June 30th, if I'm not mistaken. So now is that there's no more tax credit for home buyers. What do you think that's going to do for home sales? That was kind of like cash for clunkers, folks. There's a lot of clunker mortgages out there, a lot of houses. The banks don't want the houses back. But if you pay, get to live in the house. And eventually it'll have to go back. So there it is. Scott in California. Oh, by the way, off-air caller, Bob, don't let me forget this, asked the difference between inflation and devaluation of 30%. And who are the winners and losers in such a scenario?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's any winners. Perhaps the people who own gold and silver, it may make them go up strongly. We don't know that yet. Although I do know that historically, gold and silver have done well and better than they have in inflationary environments. But it's logical to think that governments, if there's a two-thirds devaluation and you owe $100,000, no matter what country you're in, and the value of the currency drops to 32.5 cents on the dollar, you would assume that the mortgage or loan would drop from $100,000 to $32,500. But the people who control Washington, they want to break the American taxpayer. They want to break everybody in the world so they can force them to accept world government. And so with that said, I don't think that they will change the amount of money that has to be paid back. and all the people with mortgages and loans will go broke. And that's what I think they're up to.
All right. Don in Ohio, you're up. Hello, Don. Don, are you there?
Yeah, I just heard the beep. Okay. I was curious about something about the banks. Now, does a bank have to have a low stock price, like $1 a share or something like that before the Fed can step in, or can it actually have, like a couple, maybe $18 share price and they take over? FDIC?
Well, it has nothing to do with the price of the stock. It has to do with the balance sheet. It doesn't matter what the public thinks the company's worth, bank is worth. It's, the controller of the currency's in there. And incidentally, they're running 2,000 banks right now. And they're in there, and they're going to say, hey, this one's got to go. We can't merge it with anybody. The paper's so bad. We got to dump it this week, so it's one of 5 that'll be done away with.
Have you heard anything about First Merit? Based
no.
out of Akron? Okay.
No, I haven't, but there are places you can go to check on that. Although
I lost the site. What was the name? I remember
one called Bankrate, but we have a bunch of them here on the computer. If you email us, we'll send them out to you.
And what is your email?
Bob, B-O-B, at INTFORECASTER.com. Bob at intforecaster.com.
All right.
And we'll send that out to you. But the bottom line is this. Between merged banks and banks that are going under, there'll probably be somewhere in the vicinity of anywhere between probably 350 and 1,000 banks going down before the year's out. And the FDIC does have money. They got about $90 billion. $45 billion came from a prepayment of dues by the bank members, and the other they had on hand. That figure is erroneous. They do have money, but it's not going to last very long.
I do have one more question, too. I have, I keep getting blank checks from Capital One and Citi where, they want me to take out, up to my credit limit, 0% interest, just 3% transfer. What gives with that? I mean, I don't think I really have that great of...
Try filling one out and see if they honor it. Chances are they won't.
No, they already have. I've done it a few times, and I just did another one today.
Oh.
He's buying more coins. Leave him alone, John, will you?
This is as long as you're not buying any of Robbie's mining stock. By the way, best kept secret out there in Scottsdale, Arizona, Robbie's property sits on top of one of the biggest gold mines. So, Robbie, if you hear digging under your house there at 1 o'clock in the morning, you'll know why.
Incidentally, John, now that you bring it up, Helix's mining property is in Arizona, and it's a real good one.
The main vein is underneath Robbie's house. Thanks for your call.
Well, everything's shaking.
Scott in California. Hello, Scott.
Oh, I'm on, huh?
Hey, well, I can put you back on hold.
No.
Okay.
Glad to be here. I want to comment about that traveling with gold. This has come up before, and I'm a merchant marine officer, and after 9/11, I just started traveling with a 20-ounce tube of the American Gold Eagles and a little pouch of those European gold coins, and maybe 40 or 60 of them, and a couple thousand in U.S. dollars and a couple thousand in euros.
So you haven't been arrested for being a terrorist?
No. Listen, that was good advice Bob gave about if you're concerned about any particular jurisdictions to check any restrictions they might have. And what you'll find, it goes from like Dubai. You could fly into Dubai with a steamer trunk full of cash. They just don't have any laws about it. To the UK, where you cannot have more than 14-karat gold, and So my reasoning was that, I might find myself on another continent and decide not to come back to the U.S., and I wanted to be able to start a new life for myself.
Well, we've got don't go anywhere because we're going to have one vacancy here. Right. Robbie's going to go to South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I've never run across any problems at all. And when the things people are concerned about is that little piece of paper leaving the U.S. About your declaration, and what that has to do with is paper instruments, financial instruments, and negotiable instruments in cash, and greater than 10,000.
I did a story about a guy who was flying, I believe, to Costa Rica. He had a stopover in Mexico. Was carrying a lot of. He was carrying about $150,000 worth of gold Eagles and Krugerrands.
Yeah, and don't tell me he left the country without them.